All right, so I want to talk about light bulbs tonight. So if there aren't really very many. I think there's only 14 bulbs, and this is the list that you can go to. It's got all the bulbs, it's got the diameters, it's got the definitions, what the Napa number is, if it's available from Napa. I went to find one today and it didn't show up at all. I can understand why. But it did. We used to get them from Napa back in the day, but they've fallen out of the supply chain. So anyway, the first one we have here is what we call the GLB 207. It's a little tiny bulb. It's got a 15 millimeter base. It's got opposed pins on it. It's just a single contact, obviously a 12 volt. And this is used for years and years on the MGB for the license lights in the back end, not 1970. And then they moved to a festoon base later on, but this is used for like ever. And it's also used as the map light in an MGA. It's only for candle power. It isn't very bright at all, but it's got that normal base on it that we see on the turn signal bulbs and so forth. So the next one we have is the single contact, and this is the GLB 380 on the list here. We've also got the Moss numbers, and that's got the 15 millimeter base, opposed pins, opposed pins, and single contact, 12 volt. And it's just a great big bulb, and you use that for turn signals on the B, turn signals uh, um, on the later MGAs, single filament bulbs for the wing lamps on a T-type, real common bulb. It's just a 1156, I think, bulb. It's pretty easy, just a single filament. Then we have the second style of double filament. So here we've got two contacts in the bottom, because we've got two different filaments on the inside. You can see perhaps that there are two filaments on the inside of this bulb. And it, to get the bulb in the holder correctly, we've got offset pins. Well, that makes a lot of sense. But the first one, the bulb I could not find at Napa, but I did find it on Amazon, has opposed pins, just like this. And that the only place that we use this is on T types, including the YT, in the wing lamps up front. And because the pins are opposed and dual contact, that means that when you put it in 180 out, and then you got to push it back in and turn it and take it out and rotate it, and put it back in the right way. Whoever came up with the opposed pins, so you get the bulb in correctly the first time. Oh boy, I hope they gave him a bonus that year. So, so those are the big bulbs. Then we've got dash bulbs. And the one that we know, it's real common, is it's the 987. It's just a little tiny. It's got a miniature Edison thread on it. It's a single contact. It's an E10. That's the designation it falls under. And you can find these bulbs in various wattages. There's a problem, obviously, if you get it too dim or too bright. And this is just as the other ones are available as LEDs. These are available as LEDs and can really brighten up the dash. After those bulbs, we get what the British call a bayonet base. So these are the bulbs that are for the MGB midget, and they've got these little slits on the side that I suppose to a very small um, Army man look like bayonets, but this is called a bayonet base. And these are real common. This is the GLB 281, but you can buy it 3898. It's an OSRAM part number. I think Napa still uses 3828 on it. So it's you can go to Napa and buy it. They're used all over in the MGB. Then we've got um, the license light that's used on the MGA or the T-type, and this has got a 9 millimeter uh, base to it, opposed pins, single contact, because of course they're all 12 volts, but it's just a bulb that they use in the license plate from the T-types through all the MGAs in the back end and on the MGB side markers. So the only problem with a side marker is that it is so big and you push it down inside that side marker. When you want to get it out, you almost, boy, sometimes you just got to smash it with a pair of pliers and then rotate it to get it out of there. The trick is to get this one, which we called a 1893, a GLB 1893. It's the same bulb because it's got the bayonet base. You can see the bayonet base on it. If I turn it correctly here, excuse me, the pin base. And this you can actually get your fingers into it's the same bulb, but you can get your fingers into this to get it out of the side marker on a 1970 through 1980 MGB. So that makes it a whole lot easier to work. Then beginning, I want to say maybe 1970. Around there, 1970 has got a license bulb that I don't have. It's a wedge base. It's just got wires on it. 1 year only license plates. I don't know about the British supplied cars. Maybe they used them longer, and I can't get a listing on it. Um, but it's um, Moss sells it, but it's 1970 only. But then we've got the reverse light, the festoon base, So it snaps into a holder, and there are two different bulbs that we use, and the candle power on them changes. This is the 10 watt, or sometimes listed as a 20 watt. I don't know which. Reverse lights, they're real bright. The same bulb, although the diameter of the glass is smaller, is used for the license lights and the interior light. Not 70, oh, 77 through 80 on the interior light. Earlier than that, maybe back to 73, 72. But if you use the reverse light bulb, on the inside of the car or for the license plates. Of course, it's a whole lot brighter, but guess what? It melts all the lenses. So that's no good. Now, again, you can get these as LEDs that have no heat to them. And a lot of people have switched over to LEDs on all of these bulbs. Then, beginning in 1968, with let me find it here, the up in the corner, up in the left-hand corner of the dashboard is the brake light, the brake warning light, and the cover on this is missing, but you can see that bulb in there. See the bulb, and you can see the threads on it down in there. It's just a little tiny bulb. It is so tiny that I'm not sure I can even handle it, but it is tiny, tiny. This is an E5 or maybe an E5.5, 5 millimeter. And this is the Lucas called it the Lilliput Edison thread. It's got an Edison thread on it, but it is unbelievably tiny. You can get those all day long on Amazon. and we called it a GLB 280 or a 921. But there are two different kinds of these having to do with the wattage. There's the half watt, which goes in the all the rocker switches, 1977 through 1980. And there is the 1.5 watt that goes in the brake warning light, 68 through 76. If you use the brighter bulb in the later switches, it gets too hot and it will melt them. So you have to pay attention. Of course, Moss has got all of these listed, but they don't have this for the 77 through 80 um, switches. So they've got a bulb listed for the brake warning light, but not for that application. So, and then we talked a little bit about that 1980, or excuse me, 1970 only bulb that is for the uh, license lights. Then we got the headlight. This is my Sev Marshall parabolic reflector because the lens got broken when the guy ran over my MGA. And these have in the beginning of T-types, not the 11-inch, but these 8-inch bulbs, they have a separate bulb on the inside. So you can squeeze the end here and take a wire out and take the bulb. The bulb itself is a separate piece. You're always warned not to touch the bulb itself. And these are pre-focused. What does even pre-focused even mean? Well, we had a car come in one time. I don't know, it was a P-type, real early, and Greg Purvis, who was the last theater lighting graduate from Hope College in about 1972, 73, was able to use his college degree finally to position the bulb in the reflector. He had to move it forward because it's adjustable. Because it was not pre-focused, you had to focus it so that you get the rays coming out of the end of here parallel. So um, that's what the pre-focus means, because prior to that, you had to actually adjust the position of the bulb. Finally, we have just a normal headlight. This is just a Wagner, Sylvania, something, 6014. So you can get a halogen, 6024. Um, if you look at the back end here where the connections are, the right-hand connection, the right-hand connection, that's blue with white. Blue with white is bright. Blue with white is bright is right. So when you're hooking up your wires, you remember that little ditty, blue with white is right. No, just a minute. Blue with white is bright is right. So opposite to that is a ground, black is ground, and then the only one left up here on the top is the blue with red, which is the dip. It's not dim. It's not really dim. It's dip. So blue with white is bright is right. I've got all these little ditties, turn signals. Green with right. Green with white is right. Green with red is left, but green with white is right. So that's about it, except for a couple little tiny notes here. Dash bulbs. The silly Lucas poster that you see that has the three different switch positions, dim, flicker, and off. That works especially well with the rheostats. I've got two rheostats here that would go into your dash to dim the dash lights. Why would you ever choose to dim your dash lights? They're never bright enough anyway. So this is an early one. This has got a porcelain base to it. You can fold back the little tabs that hold the back on this. You can take the back of it off. You can clean it. You can quick sandblast it inside there, make it look just beautiful. It's just great. And then there's these, which I didn't take apart to show, but it's a board. in there with about 20 little things to feelers that drag on the board, and the board's always burned up. And they're always frozen. So not only that, but the connector's broken off the other side on top too. But these things are late model MGB rheostats, or why would you even have it? So if you want to get your dash lights bright, you combine the reds, or the red with greens, with the red with whites, all in the same set of spade terminals with a piggyback terminal, and then your dash lights are bright all the time. I got a note from Jeff Zorn, Little British Car Company, and one of the first things he started selling when he opened up his business, more than 20 years ago, was light bulbs were LEDs. And he said, "Oh my gosh, if I wasn't on a cruise," he's always on a cruise, "if I wasn't on a cruise, I'd come on and talk about light bulbs." But Fred probably knows something about light bulbs, because Fred knows something about, oh, and Fred knows a lot about everything. So anyway, this is the chart. Marty's got it either posted or a link to it. And if it can help you out, and you can just go to Napa and buy the bulb, buy it from Moss. We got to support Moss. Moss is the leader. But anyway, so that's my quick course on light bulbs, and
Hey,
I'm
John,
I'm open for discussion.
John,
Fred,
do you have an example of an H4?
you mean a headlamp?
Yeah.
Headlamp? No, no,
Oh, okay.
no.
So
It,
that's
John, this is
good.
Judd. John,
yes.
uh, it seems to me that there are, at least in the T series, low voltage bulbs that the socket has some kind of resistive wiring wrapped around it. And
Okay.
so the bulb is, instead of a 12-volt bulb, it's a something God only knows volt.
No, no, it's a 12-volt bulb. It's a 12, it's this
They reduce the
E10.
wattage that way.
They reduce the voltage going to the bulb, so it's dim. So that's on your green gasoline indicator, and that's on your red um, um, ignition warning light. And I don't know how many ohms of resistance there are in that wire wound resistor that goes around there. Oh my gosh, take one of those things apart and count the pieces. I mean, there's like 15 pieces in there. It's just, oh my gosh, it's so complicated, so expensive. But what it does is cut the voltage down. So this isn't like blindingly bright on the
Okay.
dashboard.
So if you were going to replace that with an LED, and I can't think of why you would, because you're not drawing enough
You're
power
not,
to make any difference.
well, no, and you don't want it brighter. You don't want it
Yeah, that's
brighter.
right. Okay. Okay, good.
I have seen uh, these 13, what are these? 1337s. I have seen these um, get all black on the inside, like a marble, all smoky on the inside, because the filaments do give off a little bit of uh, stuff, and it collects on the inside of there. And we had an MGC, Norm Schuring's MGC, and he said just change all those under dash bulbs. Well, it's a MGC. It's like a 68 or 69. Can't get your hand back there. Just a horrible job. Changed them all. Dash was just bright again. It was so nice, because every single one of these was just black. The inside was just black. So,
By the way,
John,
one
let
last
me
comment.
Judd, yeah, keep going.
Real quick, I've got Jeff Zorn's LED headlights in my TD and MGA, and I don't do much night driving. I turn them on for daylight driving lights. I think it's safer to have lights on. They seem to be working perfectly good. They're a very good price. So just a quick shout out to Jeff, and I hope he's having a good cruise.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it's there's been a lot of discussion about putting a relay onto the wires that go to these bulbs, because these things draw so much current, and you run them through, like say you get a 73 MGB. The earlier Lucas switches will handle it. But if you're driving with your lights on and you put your hand up on the left-hand side underneath the dash and you feel the wires on the back of the switch, they're warm. Okay, they're only warm because there's high resistance. And the high resistance is cutting the voltage to the bulbs, and it's also heating up the switch. And the switch finally gets so hot over a period of time, repeated warmings, that the switch fails. So then you get a new switch, which doesn't look exactly the same as the original switch. It's close, but it's not. It's not really. The lettering isn't quite right. So you can prevent all that by putting a relay on your headlights. You don't need a relay on anything else. Well, you can make a case for them on the brake lights for the pressure sensor sensitive brake lights prior to 67 and before. But the relays are real helpful. But those LEDs draw so little current that I don't think it heats up the switches enough to damage them.
Question for you, John.
Yes, sir.
It's Bob LaRocca, Rocky, at the Crawford Auto Museum, the Preservation and Restoration Center in Macedonia. We're working on an MGA, and we finished everything, but we're working on doing some of the dash light bulbs. And we had a problem. I bought some bulbs online, and I don't know if they're made in China. What they look, they're the E10. Is
Hmm.
that what they are? And the
Hmm.
screw. We have a hard time getting them into the fixture.
New
It's like you can't
fixture?
quite get it started. I don't know if we have to. Do we have to kind of pry open the? It's like
Is
it's
it
not like a washer that's got a little bend
is
to
it
it,
a
a
new
little
is it
base.
a new wiring loom?
It's no, it's the original.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, it's probably that the E10 is just a little big. So if you got to pry it open, you just have to pry it open, just the way it
Just
is.
open it up a little bit. It's just like a flat washer,
Yeah.
that's got a split washer. So just take a screwdriver, open up it because I can't get the thing started, and you turn and turn and turn and turn
Well,
it to your.
you go to Napa and you buy what's that? Those are the 987s. What's the you can go to Napa and buy some more. They probably will fit better.
Okay, I mean, I
987
bought the ones
14.
they had aluminum base, and so I bought some other ones then that I didn't think were made in China. And they had a brass base, and so I thought they would fit because they look more like the originals. But I still had a hell of a time. It's if
Okay.
you're lucky, unless you really push hard, or it's hard to get them in on there. But
It's
that's the only
it's
problem we
it's
really have with that.
creepy. It's creepy when you're working with one of these and you're
Mhm.
pushing hard with your fingers and you go at some point in the process you're going, geez, I wonder what would happen if the bulb broke. You
Yeah,
know,
and you
wonder how
experiment.
far how far in my finger that glass would go. Yeah.
Yeah. We
Yep.
started using a rubber glove to see if we could get a better grip on the glass because sometimes your hands get a little slippery. So do that and it kind of it's easier to get a little grip on it.
Okay.
But we tried. I remember we tried, and you're working underneath the dash.
Yeah.
So the last thing, well, all it is like a split washer. So just put a flat, a screwdriver in and just
Yep.
open up a little bit. Maybe get a bite on that first thread. I don't know if it'd be worth it to try to chase it, with a dive. I don't know, whatever it is, just to get it
Just bend
started
it.
on it.
Just bend
You
it.
might
So
you might try taking the base, pulling the wire spring back a little bit, and then having somebody drop the bulb in there, get it started. It might
Well,
just be
it's
the
it's
spring pressure so much.
no, it is because believe me, we're pushing pretty hard on that, to get that bulb in there. It's just
yeah,
not biting.
just
So I
just
know we're in tight
just
pretty hard, but it just feels like it's just missing that bottom thread.
just yeah, just bend it a little bit.
Open it up a little bit. It won't hurt it to open it up, I guess.
We had a YT come in the shop one time from Lansing, Michigan. And the guy hauled it out of a barn and got it up and running and everything and took it to his local repair shop. And they said, "Oh, 1950, that's a 6-volt system." So they put a
Oh,
6-volt battery in it. They put 6-volt bulbs in it. And of
oh,
course,
gee.
the, the poor generator and control box are going, "Oh my God, we got to charge this more, more, more." And so we're up at 14 volts and we're blowing out the bulbs.
Oh,
And
shoot.
finally, after the guy had had it there a couple of times, he gave up and said, "I'm going to go seek someone who has a better clue on what's going on." So we took the 6-volt out, put a 12-volt battery in, and put 12-volt bulbs back in the car.
Oh,
It all worked great.
there's a workarounds, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's all I really wanted to find. We're
sure,
working on there.
sure.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
John, I took and changed my lights in my dash to LEDs on my B, but the turn signal lights don't show very much. They're very dim. I can't see them at all in the daytime.
Okay, so there's a problem with LED bulbs in that they only put out certain wavelengths of light. So an incandescent puts out white light. It puts out all different the whole spectrum, right? Well, I mean, if you look at exactly, there's probably little gaps someplace, but the LEDs are missing some colors, and as a result, they won't go through the lens. They just won't illuminate. So just put your um, those bayonet-based ones back in there again.
Well,
Um,
they do make a colored LED bulbs for that.
okay, so you maybe get a green
So,
one then.
well, so if you have amber lenses, put in amber LEDs. If you
Okay,
have red lenses, put in red LEDs.
but if we're talking about this guy here with a bayonet base.
Oh, with the green.
I think so.
Well,
Yeah.
they do make green LEDs.
Okay. All
But
right.
a
So
friend of
that
mine just put green LEDs in all of his MGA dashboard because the car is green. He wanted green
okay.
LEDs.
Well, that's ugly. I put on my MGA the turn signal light bulb was and the lens was shot. So I bought a cheap green lens through Moss and I bought a green LED to put in there. Now I've got LED lights on the turn signals front and rear. So because it draws such little amount of current, I couldn't use the resistive flashing can, had to put the electronic flasher can in, which works great and is
Yeah.
no problem. Now, I don't know which is the cause of this, but when I turned the turn signal on, the light on the dashboard is a nice bright green. When I turn it off, the light on the indicator light, now the turn signal stop immediately, but the indicator light continues to flash, and it's sort of like an asymptote. It flashes bright, not quite so bright, a little bit less, and it kind of goes down. And it takes maybe 5 to 15 seconds for it to actually stop flashing, and I have no idea why. It doesn't matter. But anyway,
There's
green
a,
LED behind green lens works great.
I believe Moss sells a resistor or diode or something that for some LEDs, they work funny and they require this, LED, this resistor or diode to bleed off that excess current or whatever.
I just learned to live with it.
Yeah. That's the cheapest way out. So yeah,
What,
that
one other thing about LED bulbs is your ignition light on an MGA or MGB. You can't use an LED bulb in there because if you have an alternator, it doesn't allow enough current to tell the alternator to start charging.
that's a
Yeah,
problem sometimes, not which is frustrating, not all the time. And for those people with a TR6, and I can't tell you what kind of bulb that is in a TR6 for the turn signal bulb. I don't know if it's the little bayonet base one or uh, or this guy the screw in. I'm not sure which is which, but if you get the LED, it only indicates when you're turning left or right, but not right or left, depending because the electricity goes through that to ground from the turn signal circuit. It goes into the other side of the system, and it only works in one direction. So there's some little weird stuff with the LEDs, but just for general illumination, there's not a problem. I hadn't heard of the problem that Judd had. And those relays are available from Napa. It's either an EL12 or an EL13. I can never remember which is which. One's got two pins on it for a later model, and one's got three pins on it for the MGAs and before. the problem, of course, is if you want to run your car positive ground and want to use one of those EL12 or EL13, it won't work. So then you got to buy one that's been switched for the other one. You got to pay an extra $20 for it. But my God, if you're going to put an electronic flasher unit in your car, you've already broken the ice. You might as well just reverse the battery and just make the whole thing modern. And you don't have to worry about the LEDs or which way the current's going or anything. It's just modern.
A
Hey,
lot of
John,
the a lot of those flashers are electronic flashers have a plastic cover, so then you can put them into a holder, and it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative.
Okay.
John, I've got a
John,
question
I
for
had
you.
I bought a bunch of LEDs, and I put some of them on, and some wouldn't work. Here, I found out it had to do with a bayonet and single or double, whatever bayonet. But the problem is my flashers work great, but the problem was some of them would just go on and flash and not work anymore. And I talked to Brian Lever, our president of the NMGR, and he said, "Oh, he said make sure it's not a CAN bus. Did you ever hear that? CAN bus is a different description for different LEDs. They look the same, but you put them in. And they read off of a newer car's computer, so it flashes and then it goes out and doesn't work anymore. But maybe you put it back in, it might start again, but it has
Well,
to read.
if you put your
But
cell phone in your car, that's a computer. Maybe it'll trick it, huh?
oh, but anyway, but the other ones I put in, the weren't CAN bus and described, they worked fine. So I have to take I bought like a bag of each. It wasn't that expensive, and I put in the ones that fit and the ones that didn't. And then I finally found out a year later that you have to have a one that's not a CAN bus. I think that's for a newer car that has a
Okay.
computer in it.
Well,
And of course,
just a warning to everybody before you go out and buy a bunch of bulbs, a bunch of bulbs that have got LEDs in them. And I thought I brought some with me today just for an example, but um, um, make sure that you're getting the right color because I bought LEDs for my daughter's 73 BGT and you step on the brakes you couldn't see the brakes were coming on. I thought, well, I bought them off Amazon. I thought, okay, all right, I got ripped off. So I go to Napa and spend another $38 or something. Can't see through those either. And I finally gave up and put the bulbs in. Never understood why until Blair Weiss was on here couple of years ago talking about headlamps. And he said, well, of course, not all LEDs put out all the wavelengths. So if I followed Fred's advice and put a red bulb behind a red lens and an amber LED behind the amber lens, it would have been great and it would have been nice and bright. And just as Brian McCullough out of Minneapolis and um, oh, another guy out of Minneapolis. They sell out of the general area up there. They sell LEDs, little tiny LEDs, about 100 of them, all on these circuit boards that you put into you can put in behind the lenses, and those are like really bright. And you step on the brakes, and it's like
Is that Lou Palmer who sells
Lou
them?
It's
Palmer.
Lou
Thank you.
Palmer, yes.
Yep. Thank you. Yep. I was just blank on that. So
And for the flashers, I bought them at Summit Racing. I have LED bulbs and everything, and those flashers worked great, no problem. But if you have cruise control and you have LED bulbs, you have to get a 5-pin relay. There's two different ones, and I forget which one is which, but I got the right one. It's the cheaper one. It works great. I have cruise because my right legs start getting older for some reason.
So we could ask all the people with MGs with cruise control to raise their hands, but I don't think we're going to get two or three. But the warning's out there. If you got cruise control and you're trying to put in LEDs, yep, contact me. I'll put you in touch with Bob and Gloria. So
John,
Hey, John,
diagram.
the other
John?
thing is you were talking about how bright these lights are. I replaced all my instrument lights with LEDs. And
okay,
most of those are white lights, which they just don't look right in the car. Just to let everybody know, they make a warm white LED that looks more like the classic appearance of the
Around
lights.
around 2000 Kelvin or something instead of 5000.
You know what? I don't even, they call it warm white as opposed
Okay,
to
right.
daylight, day, whatever. They're not quite as bright, but they're plenty bright to see the instruments at night and 1000% better than the others, than the incandescents. But they get away from that stark white light look and give you more of a classic look.
Mark, thank you very much for that. Thanks.
John,
Yes,
And that's where the rheostat doesn't work on LEDs either.
right.
It doesn't work much on incandescents either.
We're back to our dim flicker.
You know what? I took my rheostat out and I put an overdrive warning light in its place. So when I turn my overdrive on, the light lights up. Doesn't tell if the overdrive's working out, but at least it tells me the switch is in the overdrive position. And it looks a lot better and is more functional than that rheostat.
Yeah.
John,
I used the spot of the rheostat for a choke cable on a late model MG since I converted the carburetor.
Oh my gosh, that is the best advice. So in the rheostat, the rheostat which comes through the dash, which has got a metal backing on it, you pull this out. First of all, you can just get rid of it. But if you want to keep it, you can take one of the little square plugs, drill a hole in that, mount this and that, because you're never going to turn it. You're never going to turn it off of brilliant, and then use that whole 77 through 80 to mount your to choke cable, and it's away from the steering wheel. It's on the left. It's supposed to be on the right, to pull it with your right hand, but maybe you're left-handed. Hey, anyway, it's a perfect place. It's just great. Yeah, rather than punching a hole in the dash or mounting it underneath by your knee or something. So who's somebody's been trying to get on? They keep saying
it's
John.
John, it's me.
Yes.
Recently, I found a source, a reputable source, a Holly Retro Bright lights. They make them in the standard 1157 and 1156 for your rear brake lights.
Okay.
Holly is sourcing these through a very reputable company, Morimoto. So they're making an excellent LED in red and in yellow. But for the rear tail lights, they've been a fabulous source of high quality lights. I don't think you can do much better. They make a headlight kit as well. Unfortunately, the headlight glass has the word Holly written on it, but the light bulb and the reflector fit very nicely in an MGB bucket and work extremely well with the benefits that you mentioned of very low amperage draw. But I would highly recommend people look at the Holly Retro Bright lights. They come in, your standard, as I said, 1156, 1157 styles, plug right in and are bright and probably the highest. Morimoto is one of the highest quality aftermarket LED manufacturers I know of.
Okay.
So much better than any of the things available on Amazon, and in fact, unfortunately, from places like reputable sources that you've mentioned previously with an M or an LC something.
Sure.
So hopefully that will help some folks out there that really want
Holly.
that. And
Instead of Holly carburetors, it's Holly light bulbs. Same.
yes, they bought up almost everybody that you can think of.
Okay. Well, in the end, Lucas was selling brake pads. I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that something hit my mind. This is the 1157 with
Mhm.
the two filaments and the two pins on the bottom and the offset pins at the base, so you get it in correctly. If you've got an earlier T-type, okay, Holly, I see that retrobite. The earlier one has opposed pins, so you can get it in 180 out, and then have to take it back out again. If you want to turn this into this with the opposed pins, just grind off Just put it on, put your Dremel tool or your grindstone or something, and just grind off the one pin. It'll stay in place with one pin. So those of you with T-types, with the front wing lamps, you can take an 1157 and grind that one pin off and have it fit.
Been there, done that, still doing it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
John,
Yes, sir.
hi, David Capello here in Savannah. How are
Hey,
you?
great. How are you? I just talked about you today. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it was good. Hey, I wanted to ask you on both of my TDs, I have the driving slash fog lamps,
Yeah.
and they both work perfectly. But when they've been on for a minute or two, they are literally so hot that you cannot touch it without really burning your hand. Would that be something that would be remedied by the relay you were talking about? Or
No, you're not talking about the switch isn't hot. The bulb
no,
itself is hot.
the light, the whole light, even, just touching the lens or the back of the light, or, I mean, and when I say hot, I mean
Hot.
scalding hot.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's I don't know, Fred, you got an answer for that?
I guess you have to look at the wattage of the bulbs, but I don't know what the standard wattage for those driving and fog lights are supposed to be.
I mean, I bought the lamps from Moss, and the cars both had, they were pre-wired and had the wiring just hanging out up under the front end. And I bought the lamps, and I said, this looks pretty easy. And I wired them up, and they work great, but they're hot. I mean, they
Hey, John,
are.
can I respond to that? I don't know if you can see my front
Yep.
end of my TD up there. It's got
Yes.
the big 7-inch fog lights on it. When I turn those on, they peg the ammeter. They draw 30 amps. They throw out a hell of a lot of light, but they make a hell of a lot of heat. To me, they're there for ornamentation. I think they look cool, but
Yeah.
you know, my generator is a standard old-fashioned negative ground generator, and it can barely keep up with those things. They are amperage hogs.
Is
And
there
I
anything
look
to
for-
do to make them
I have a
less hot?
solution.
Or-
I have a solution. I just put the Moss headlights, driving lights on my friend's MGA, and again, they were hot, draw a lot of current. I put LED, British pre-focus LED bulbs in there. They work perfect. No heat.
No. Okay,
Is
these
that
are
on a
very
positive
shallow.
ground?
Do those bulbs fit? I mean, these lights that I've got are only about an inch and a half deep, and the bulbs I've been able to find have not been. They wouldn't fit. I don't know. Where did you get them, Fred? Because I'd love to get some.
I bought them on eBay, I believe. Might have been Amazon, but I can drop some information to John, and he can pass it along, I suppose.
That'd be great. I'd love to. I'd love to be able to turn them on. I mean, they're cool when they're running.
Yeah. The
Well,
LED bulbs are about only maybe less than an inch deep, so they're a lot smaller than the British pre-focus bulbs that normally come in those.
That'd be great.
And David Capella said, "Will it work with positive earth?" And chances, I don't understand how an LED works, how they can be bisexual. I thought they were. I thought that the electricity was going one way or the other way.
Well, again, on the British pre-focus, they are not polarity sensitive. You'd probably have to reverse your wires if you're positive earth, but you have two wires on
All right.
these replacement. They wouldn't work on the original, 576s, but on the replacement ones, you have two wires, so it's easy to reverse them.
And John, one other thing, this is not quite on the topic of bulbs, but I think most of us TD owners have clocks that are accurate twice a day. And for some reason, I just wanted to get the clock working. And there's a gentleman in Germany that maybe you and the people know. His name is Declan Burns, and he 3D prints replacement TD clocks that are indistinguishable from the original. They run on 12 volts, and there's a little console about the size of a deck of cards or smaller, and you just hook it up to the battery. But the clock itself is painted the original color of the face of the clock. And as Declan says, before he sent it, it would take a concourse judge with a microscope to tell the difference, and he's right. So if anybody wants a working clock, I would highly, highly recommend these. They're as good or better than original, indistinguishable.
Does he advertise? Does he advertise someplace?
I just found him actually on a very old thread on one of the forums, and I said, "Hey, are you still alive? And are you still making clocks?" And you can just Google Declan Burns MG clock.
So
And
how do you spell? I'm
It's
first name
Declan.
or Declan.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, Declan. Last name Burns, Burns. He's in Germany. You pay him in euros via PayPal, and he sends it to you very nicely boxed. And the hands are identical. The face is the color is a perfect match, and it's really nice. So I just thought,
what's the rough cost on that?
90 euros for the whole deal
before tariffs. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
before tariffs. Well, I won't tell you what he said because it's not a political forum. But anyway, yeah, he's a great guy, and they're very, very original. I mean, if you're going to put it in a show, yeah.
Another thing about Declan is he has a lot of other accessories and modifications and things for T series, but also he has like 3D printed trunnion seals for MGAs and T series, and the trunnion seals will also fit the MGB. So he has two different types. One, goes on a brand new assembly. The other one, if you just want to replace one seal, he has a split one that you can use screws or lock wire to go around the trunnion without having to tear the whole thing apart.
Is that cool or what?
Yeah,
It's very cool.
He also makes probably the best T-Series clutch rods replacement that you could ever get. I've got them on mine, and they're absolutely beautiful. He advertises in something. I was just looking in the Sacred Octagon. He's not in that, but some magazine I get, he does advertise in. But you can pick him up on the forums, or you can probably Google Declan Burns. He's a good guy.
Okay.
Yep.
Came up on my Google here.
Very nice. Very cool. Well, it's 8:01, so it's time for me to make another PayPal pitch, but that's about it. If you haven't hit PayPal yet, there's still the rest of the day. Anyway, how many more questions do we have about light bulbs?
John,
Yes,
hi,
sir.
this is Doug. At one time, Moss Motors sold a LED festoon bulb, festoon style bulb, and I bought some. And for my MG, I put it in the dome light and the roof light.
Sure.
And that worked a lot better. And but the catalog now says they're out of stock.
They're
selling them anymore.
Napa sells them. Everybody sells them.
You can buy these all day, and everything's available on Amazon. Of course, sometimes if you're not reading it carefully, you buy it and it's a 24-volt bulb or a 6-volt bulb, or just read the instruction completely. But yeah, I've seen the festoon-based bulbs.
And you also mentioned about the bulbs that have been burned out get discolored.
Yes.
Here's one. It's the zebra effect, I call it.
Oh yeah, okay.
And here's one that's completely like fogged up.
Okay.
White.
Yes.
This one's real. This one almost looks like a marble. And look at that.
That is cool.
Yeah, and inside my apartment, it even happened to one of my lamps.
Okay.
So anyway, it looks kind of cool. So I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yep. It'll severely impact the amount of light coming out of the filament and getting out to you. Okay. Well, we're gonna go over to the chat section now and work through the chat. And if something comes up, just break in as you have before. Before the meeting starts, this one says, I dialed in a couple months ago and you gave me helpful advice on rear axle seals. Thank you very much. Wow, Dan G, thank you. Thank you for that's very kind. Thanks. Steve Olson, do HS4 throttle shafts with O-rings added by one vendor really work? Do they really provide a better seal to make them worth the extra money? Well, I'd say no. Just rebush the bodies and I mean you can't have a perfect seal there, but I don't think that's a I I I I don't think that's an issue at all. Just put sometimes you just put new shafts in. Fred, what do you got to say? Fred's our other SU expert here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you need any seals there. Of course, the Zena Strombergs had seals, but that was Zena Strombergs. You don't need them on the SUs.
Yeah, well, HIFs have them in there. The
Yeah,
AUD 3577s.
yeah.
Those little yeah, those things in there. But
But you're right. Replacing the shaft often takes up a lot of the slack in any air infiltration.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if you have to rebush.
So, but Steve, what are you doing with an HS4 throttle shaft? You got a midget, don't you?
I do, but it's got HS4s on it.
What? It's a 1500 then.
Yes.
Oh, all
Yeah.
right. Okay. Okay. All right. Oh,
And the shafts are worn out. And I was going to replace them, and I realized that they've become expensive. And for an extra $10 a shaft, I think it's Mini Mania, I believe is where I found it. They've got shafts that they have cut a groove in to slip a O-ring
okay.
in,
Right.
which would make in theory, would seal that up very nicely.
Sounds kind of cool, but of course the O-rings always rubbing it. Anyway, you got Fred's in my opinion. So
Okay, thank you.
right, save you $20. Yeah. So Judd, I'm replacing all the valves in my TD. The valves I bought are 36 and 34 millimeter instead of the standard 33 and 31. Um, my trusted vendor says later TDs and the TFs use the larger valves. And my head can be upgraded to take the larger size. Can I do this? Do I need valve seats? Do I need hardened valve seats for stainless valves and a cast iron head? So, yes, you do need valve seats. Absolutely. The valve seats are sized according to the size of the valves. So, your machine shop is going to get the right size seats to match those larger valves. There's not one iota of difference in the way the car runs between the smaller and larger valves, but the better.
I'm not looking to improve the performance. Mine runs great.
Yep. But no, it'll take the larger one. Make sure you use the cast iron guides. Don't use the phosphor bronze guides.
Okay, well,
And use the umbrella oil seals. And I don't have my tech book right in front of me right now, but your machine shop will be able to find some umbrella oil seals and fit them at least on the inlet valves, if not both.
okay. I don't know if you can see it in the picture I've got up there,
Yeah.
but the number 3 exhaust valve looks like
Yeah.
somebody drilled a hole in it.
Yep, I can see it. Yeah,
It was kind of interesting because I was on a drive, and at lower speeds it wasn't running too good. Well, actually, it was just running on 3 cylinders. But as soon as I could get over 3,000 RPM, it just smoothed right out. And my interpretation of that is that that hole is not big enough at high RPM for all the gas to leak out.
Yes.
So I was getting some performance out of number 3, but not much.
Yep.
I could go 60, 65, but I couldn't go 40.
Yep. I understand. Yeah, that's a nice burn on there. When you consider how hot everything is inside there, all that combustion gases, and the fact that the valve only opens up just what? I mean, on an MGB, 1.5 times a quarter, 3/8 of an inch. It opens up 3/8 of an inch, and all that inlet gas, which of course is just icy cold when it comes in because it's just got done evaporating all that gasoline. They had to take heat from someplace, so it's icy cold. But those exhaust gases, I mean, it's like holding a cutting torch. So that's what happens when it doesn't seal. So yeah, you'll be happy. I know there are
I am
stainless
getting
valves,
stainless.
but and you can make a case for them or against them. I think they're cut out of billet, though. I think that's one of the advantages, and they're not. They're not friction welded like most valves are. So
Okay, great. Thank you. I was worried about whether or not I had got the wrong ones and they wouldn't be able to do it. But if they could just put in the correct size seats, I'm in business.
yeah, yeah, you'll be all right. Okay, Fred, John, I want to discuss an MGA distributor advance problem I saw today. Okay, Fred, what kind of which distributor?
Actually, I don't know. I mean, it
Okay,
was actually a DM2. It
okay,
was in. It's an MGA with a MGB motor in it, with some sort of crane cam. And the customer, a club member, was complaining that running like crap, and especially as you increased RPM, it was popping through the carburetors. So I thought, well, maybe a condenser, but because that can cause weird things. It was one of Rob Medinsky's, advanced, condensers, so it's supposed to be a good one. But I figured, well, anything can happen, so I
sure.
swapped that out. Didn't make any difference. So then I said, well, let's check the timing. So I had to paint the timing marks because nobody had ever done that before. Had to find those. They're down underneath. And even though it was a later engine, they'd still use the old front timing cover. Uh, but so I got down there, marked it, and at idle, we were about, I don't know, 15 degrees before top dead center, maybe 12, I don't know, something like that. So I said, well, rev it up to 3,000. I put the advanced timing light on there, and it kept right at 15 degrees. Just did not change at all. So I thought, well, it's supposed to be changing. He didn't have vacuum advance. He only had mechanical advance. And again, I said, well, this is going to run like crap on the road until you get a higher RPMs.
Yeah.
So I pulled out the distributor. I just threw in a 25D that I had that I knew worked, and the car ran perfectly. So then I took the plate off of the DM2 that had been rebuilt, and I couldn't see anything wrong. The weights were moving, the springs were there. It looked like everything was moving, but it wasn't advancing in the car.
Well, it had gone to full advance by idle.
I guess, but how can it do that? Because when I took the cover off, it wasn't at full advance. At least it didn't look like full
Well,
advance.
Weak springs.
weak springs or the toggles were the toggles all
Yeah.
get worn out and
Well, this was all rebuilt.
well, okay.
But anyway, he's going to talk to the guy who rebuilt it. It was a couple years ago, so I don't know if it's out of warranty by now. But
Whatever warranty was expressed or implied is certainly, yeah,
right.
a couple
The
years
taillight
ago
warranty.
means 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it is up and running. I think I need to do a few more little tweaks with the. I think I was reading 35 degrees advance at full advance with this other distributor. So I'm going to back down the initial timing a couple of degrees to maybe 12 or 10, and it should be fine.
So as a follow-up to what Fred said, if you're running down the road and especially under light load, like going up the slightest gradient, just going up the slightest gradient, and the car maybe feels like you're running into a headwind or you're pulling a trailer, and every now and then it goes, spits, it's either too lean or too retarded. So you always check the float bowls first and the charcoal canisters if you've got that, and just, make sure that it's not the carburetors, because those are easy right up there on top. You can take a look. But it's either too lean or too retarded. That's what causes the cars to hold back like that. And when you get a distributor built, say it's a 1958 MGA, normally that'd be a 40510 distributor. But if you've got an MGB engine in it, the distributor doesn't go to the car, it goes to the engine. So, depending on, if you talk to Schlemmer, he's got all different advanced curves and rates for what cam you've got and what compression you've got and everything. But I always default on the ported ones to the 40897s. So yeah, interesting. I bet that was at full advance. I bet. I
Yeah,
mean,
it must have been.
yeah, because if it
Yeah,
looked like,
I never saw it advance as we increased the RPM. But as soon as the RPM got above 2,500, it started spitting out the carbs.
yeah,
So it
just
was
running
not,
too retarded.
yeah. So that was an interesting one. I'd never seen that before, but I figured it out pretty quickly.
I had a guy who was going to go to the MGB, the first MGB convention in Peterborough, Ontario, in 1992. Tom Tabor, guy here in town, and man, that thing, it just spit. Oh my gosh! And I checked the timing, its speed, and it was okay. Something I checked it somehow. It was a long time ago, and obviously, and I said, well, what have you done with the distributor? Oh, I had it apart, but nothing unusual and everything. And he thought he drove an American car up there. And come to find out, he'd used Loctite on the screw to hold the screw in the center so the cam won't come off. And of course, the Loctite had come down the side of the cam and frozen the cam to the spindle. So the timing he had was the timing he had. There was no advance and no retard. So yeah, so it'd be interesting to find out what was wrong with yours. You can tell us next time you're on.
Another car, this car had been worked on by another mechanic in the area. You good mechanic usually. Don't know why this was. I think the problems with it didn't have the problem, and then it got worse and worse. So that's why maybe he didn't really realize that. But he said because it's got a cam in it, he didn't want to put vacuum advance on it. So the can was there, brand new, but not hooked up. So I'm planning on hooking up the vacuum advance, even though it's got a cam, because this guy is never going to drive it on the raceway, and he just wants to drive it, and it's going to be much more drivable at lower speeds with vacuum advance.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, John, I have something for you. This is Jim S.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was picking up one of my grandsons when you guys were talking about the burnt valves. So
Yeah.
I wanted to show. I had an experience like that. I wanted to show you guys. You see that valve?
Yeah, looks like it's exactly like
That's my
Judd's.
valve.
Well, I didn't have my camera. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Exactly. This happened to me in 1970.
Okay. You've been carrying that valve in your pocket.
Driving through Minnesota in the winter. I think a little piece of carbon must have gotten knocked off of the,
Okay.
set.
Yeah.
Anyhow, same thing happened to me.
Doesn't
Over
take
3,000
much.
RPM. I drove all the way to Detroit, Michigan. So I could, 1970, there weren't too many MG dealers in Minnesota, if any.
More than there are now.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Jim, we'll have to form a club.
Yeah. That's almost identical.
Almost. Yep. Phil Calera, question on 74 MGB handbrake cable. Mine was at the end of adjustment, handle all the way up, and it just about held the brake. So Phil, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here, John.
Okay,
I
so
hit enter while I was typing, so my
that's
chat
okay.
is in two separate things.
Oh, all right. I didn't
If you
see
scroll
that.
down a little bit, you'll see the rest of it.
Okay. Well, here, just just tell me.
Yeah. So I should have called you before I started fiddling with the car, but I have a 74B, and over the years, my handbrake, I had to pull it higher and higher and harder to get it to engage. So finally, it was at the end of its travel, and it still really wouldn't engage. So my assumption was that the cable was stretched out, and I bought a new cable online. Well, the new cable was just about 12 inches longer than the one that I had in the car. And so I called the guy up in Maine, a nice guy. At any rate, he could not understand how the cable he sent me could possibly be 12 inches longer. You're chafing. You probably heard this before, I guess. At any rate, so I put the 12-inch longer cable in because at that point I was like, like this. And of course, it's still at the end of the travel, it's still real barely engaged. I wound up going on YouTube, and a guy on YouTube shows his trick was to take out the adjustment spring altogether on the handbrake cable and just replace it with a spacer. So I took off the adjustment nut, took out the spring, and put in two nuts as a spacer. And actually, now it works pretty well.
Okay, so
I'm just wondering if you ever heard of any.
well, sure. When you're adjusting a handbrake, the first thing you do is adjust the rear brakes.
Yeah,
First
yeah,
thing is adjust the rear brakes
I
with
did
the
that.
handbrake all the way off. Then if you, I don't think handbrake cables stretch. They just taught that I don't, maybe they do. I don't know. But um, this isn't for you because you've already been there, but for everybody else who's listening, there are at least six, maybe there's eight different handbrake cables throughout the production of MGAs and MGBs. And there's a difference between disc and wire wheel. And there's a difference from year to year that they change now and then, and they all look exactly the same. So
It
there are
did. Yeah.
three measurements on each cable that are critical. One is the length of the sheath, the length of the main cable, which goes to the left rear, and the length of the transverse cable that goes from the equalizer over to the right hand side. So you have before you install a new handbrake cable, you always lay the new one against the old one to make
I
sure
did.
that it's the same
Yes, I
size.
did.
Now, if it's too short, you can put little spacers on the end. I've done that before because changing that cable is such a terrible job. But you use pieces of metal about the same thickness as the strap that holds the exhaust to the gearbox. Um, Pretty, I mean, you don't want to fool around with brakes. And then there's also cable shorteners. What's a cable shortener? Two pulleys and then a hook with a nut on the bottom, and the hook draws the cable down past the pulleys and effectively shortens it. Now you got this great big thing dancing around on your handbrake cable, so you have to take some zip ties and zip tie it up to something up above. So it's anyway. The lesson here is adjust rear brakes first, then adjust the handbrake. If you're going to buy a new handbrake cable, make sure you lay it against the old one before you install it, just to make sure that it's not grossly different than the one that you had.
Yes, yes, and yes to all your I did. As a matter of fact, I meant to. I was going to I took a picture of the two cables side by side, and I meant to email it to you just to get a consultation, and I forgot to do it.
Okay.
Bottom line is, he could not understand. I have a 74, with disc wheels. He could not understand how one cable could be 12 inches longer than the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Those cables all look the same. They get mixed up where they're being made. They get mixed up because there isn't a number stamped on them, nothing. Then maybe there's a piece of paper tape, and that's not enough to, yeah. So
all right. Well, like I said, I did finally get it to work properly uh, by taking the adjustment nut out altogether, taking the adjustment spring out. I removed that using
whatever.
two nuts,
Good. Okay.
and that worked. So
Great.
it's like the hell
Great.
with it.
All right. Wonderful.
Okay, all right, next.
Okay, David Basili, are you still on? David,
I am
all
on,
right,
John.
okay, so your brake warning light, when you turn the key over to start, there's the white with red circuit goes hot. It goes through a diode and goes into the brake warning light and lights up the brake warning light. If you pull the handbrake on, when the key is on, it also lights up the handbrake warning light. So my question is, does it come on with a handbrake or not?
It does not. It
Oh,
doesn't come on ever.
okay. So because it doesn't come on in either case, and there is I can't get this I can't extract that circuit in my head. I don't know if you need the diode. You do need the diode in place when you turn the key to start. If the diode goes continuous, if you've got that failure, then when you pull up on the handbrake, the starter motor works. That's kind of weird, but I've seen that. Um, I think the bulb is out. I think the bulb is out, and it's not impossible to reach. The tachometer comes out of there pretty easily. You push on the tack and turn it to 10 o'clock, and it just pops right out of the dash, and you get your hand in there. So, and it uses that little bayonet-based bulb. It uses the bayonet-based bulb, the miniature bulb. Let me consult my chart here. Um, Style opposed a bayonet. It's 38.98. You can buy that from Napa. 30. It's a Wagner
48.98.
3898. Yeah.
Okay, so it's definitely not the diode then.
Well, there's always a chance that there's more than one problem, but no, it's not I, if the diode goes continuous, then you got a problem with the handbrake. I don't think it's the diode. The diode is located underneath the glove box. There's two of them there. I don't have one, but they're little tiny, and they've got a female spade on one end and a male spade on the other, so you can't get them the wrong way around. And they're either cylindrical, but by 1980, yeah, by 1980 they're flat. They're just little flat square things, but it's down underneath the glove box, and the wire going to it is white with red.
Okay.
But I think it's the bulb.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Hey, John. Steve
Yes.
Tupac here. Real quick on that kind of same topic. My brake warning light, if I push on it and test on it, it'll come on, but never see it come on if the handbrake is on or anything else.
What year
Is
is
something
yours?
71?
Okay. All right. So you've got this style here.
Yeah, that looks kind of
All
familiar.
right. So there are four connectors on the back. One's
Right.
ground. There are two black with whites, and there is a purple. And so when you press on this,
Yeah.
the current goes from the purple, hard to hang on to tonight. Goes through the from the purple down to the switch, back up from the switch, and then to ground through the light bulb, and illuminates the bulb. If one of those wires grounds down at the switch, it
Are you talking
grounds
about this?
at this.
Are you talking about the switch for the brake pedal?
No,
No.
no, on the shuttle, on that brass block shuttle that lies just next to your air cleaner, next to your rear air cleaner on the inner fender. There's a brass shuttle. You got two lines that come out of the master cylinder that go into the shuttle,
Yeah,
and
yep,
three
yep, yep.
lines that come out.
Okay.
One in from the master cylinder, one to the rear, one in from the master cylinder, two out to the front. And there's a little shuttle valve in there that'll move back and forth. And if your brake, it has nothing to do with a handbrake. If the pressure in the brake system, if you lose the pressure in the rears or the fronts, mostly the rears,
That's what it's for.
then the shuttle moves one way and then trips the switch. And
Got
that
it.
grounds the switch and that causes the light to come on.
Okay. All right.
If you're so silly that you don't realize that your foot's on the floor. Yeah. So, yeah.
But oftentimes those switches are bad and they're leaking and all kinds of other problems and corroded.
The shuttle valve. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And
Sure.
those you can take apart and put O-rings in. The very earliest ones you couldn't, but the later ones you can. By 71, I think you did take it apart. It's like a number 8 O-ring. You can put those in there and repair it. So
Okay, great. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Some to call that the that warning light, you're gonna die light. 'Cause by the time that comes on, you got no brakes.
But it's yeah, that is the truth. Is there an easy way? Let's see. This is Tavis. Is there an easy way to put an LED bulb into the instrument on a 73B? So again, we're dealing with these bayonet-based bulbs, and I assume, I mean, you can get LEDs for everything. So yes, I'm sure you can. So, and Jeff Zorn, Little British Car Company, he made his way into the world of replacement MG parts, starting with light bulbs. So he's one place to go, and Moss has probably got something too. See, John Avalone, how do you change the MGB dashboard light bulbs from LED because getting underneath is difficult? So, John, what year and model do you have? John's got on.
Yeah, I'm a 1972.
Okay. All right. So getting up behind there is easier if you take the heater control, the heater controls out. Okay. So find the hole in the knob, depress. I just took some off with 69 MGC. I took like a number 8 nail and put it in a pair of vice grips and used it as a push and pushed into the side of the there's a hole in the knob and it depresses a pin and then the knob comes off. Underneath that is a nut. You need a deep 5/8 socket. Spin the nut off. Underneath that there's a lock washer and a flat washer. Jiggle those off. Grab a hold of those and then grab the control from the back of the dash. The left hand one comes out pretty easily, but the right hand one, oh my God. Oh my God, that's the vent, the heater vent, demist and heat off. That one you really got to pull on the dash and shake this thing, but pretty soon both of them are dangling. Now you can get your hands up in there more easily than you can with the heater controls in the way. So, yeah, slitting your wrist is easier than yeah, it's a tremendous project there. So anyway, but get those heater controls out. So here, Marty at 7:05 put up all those questions came up early. Marty put the form up there, so that'll be on our website too. Okay, Picton, always interested in the best place to buy LED bulbs. Also now sourcing UK or offshore due to tariffs. Well, if the tariff on a $10 bulb is $10, still ain't going to cost you very much. Tariff on my cell phone, that's quite something else. There's a Napa. Napa sells LED bulbs. Headlights, you want to buy quality headlights. That's Blair Weiss talked to us a long time, about 2 years ago, about LED headlamps, and you can go online. He had ads, 24,000 candle power, and he says you can't. That's brighter than a landing light on a jet. He said it's all crap. You just buy a good bulb, GE or Sylvania or something like that, a LED bulb for a headlamp. You'll be just fine. You can buy all that stuff at Napa. So, or you can buy it from Moss. Phil Dredden. Any tips on how to release the frozen onto flywheel clutch plate on an X-Pag engine that was reconditioned 30 years ago and has sat in a shed since? Yes, I got an answer for you, Phil. Are you on? You still
Yes,
on?
I am. Thanks.
All right. Okay.
Hi.
So this engine got no distance on it before it was parked, or 100
Correct.
miles, or
Yeah, the car was dismantled and various things done. The engine was reconditioned, and then it just sat. So the engine's out of the car, separated from the gearbox.
oh, the engine's out of the car.
Yeah, the engine's just sitting on
Oh,
my garage floor now because I bought the project about a year ago.
all right. Well, then if it's really frozen, it's just a chisel and a hammer.
Is it?
I
Yeah,
was going to tell you how to get it loose without taking the engine out, but once the engine's out, you take the clutch cover off and just use a couple of putty knives, steel putty knives in from either side.
right,
Just a hammer, and then of course it's been rusted. The clutch disc has got some metal in it, and it's rusted to the flywheel. So now you got to take your sander, your DA, something or other, and get that flywheel nice and smooth again. Put a new clutch disc, and you'll be all set to go.
right. I just didn't want you to crowbar and lever it against the block or the sump or anything like that because I was afraid I'd crack something.
Nah, you won't. That's just use some. Um, I just had the name. The Ravages of Age.
Putty
Um,
knife.
Putty knife. Thank
I
you.
don't know. Oh yeah,
That
I'll
sound
try
like
that.
sound like friends. Yep, yep. Just in there. A couple of them around the edge. Just keep tapping. It'll come
Right.
off.
Okay. Thanks.
Hey, good luck. You're from Auckland, right?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Autumn day here. We've got a nasty storm coming down from the tropics. So from the look of it, we're all being told to clear our drains out and everything.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But it doesn't get very, well, I mean, how cold does it get there? Does it get to 5 or something?
In
Um,
Auckland, yeah, it would get to 8 would be a cold day, 8 degrees centigrade. But of course, in the South Island, it's different again. It's minus.
oh
Lots
my.
of snow and skiing.
Oh my. Yeah, I've got the gal that used to cut our hair. She was a single mom. Well, she was married, husband took off and had a daughter, and she advertised herself on Match.com. I expect you've got that in New Zealand too. And a guy from North Dakota contacted her and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a wife. I'm a farmer." And she goes, "I'm game." And she's been up there 10 years. It's worked out great for her. It's wonderful. Anyway, during the winter, she sends out a picture of her thermometer, of course, in Fahrenheit. And so the house, the inside, she's got the inside temperature of the house, and it's 70 or 72. And the outside temperature said minus 40
Is that
Fahrenheit,
right?
minus 40. And she said, but the instructions on the thermometer say it only goes to minus 40. She said, so it might be colder.
No,
Yeah.
we
Oh,
get we get a full range here.
yeah. Nice. Well, thanks. Good.
Okay, thanks.
Good luck with that X bag.
See you.
Okay. I'm on to John Uhas. Here we go. 51 TD, positive ground. All but 2 lamps have been changed to LED super brights. So come on for a minute here, John Uhas.
Yes, John.
Yeah. So anyway, so in the super brights all work even though it's positive ground?
Oh, yeah. In the specs, it'll tell you whether it's going to be bipolar or, positive ground, negative ground. A lot of them are, will not make a difference. They're
Okay.
adaptable.
I think bisexual sounds better than bipolar.
Yeah, I heard that before. I love it.
Bipolar. I got bipolar bulbs. When they're mad, they don't come on at all. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you very much. Super bright. Okay. Thanks. Marty's got some notes here. And Chris, to everybody, how difficult is it to free up a stuck choke cable? Oh, this is interesting. Chris, are you still on? Chris with a stuck choke cable. So anyway, we don't have Chris. The question's why is it stuck? Why is the choke cable stuck? That's odd.
It isn't really, because remember a little while ago I mentioned that there was a possibility of me picking up a 1969 MGB GT barn find. Hadn't been driven since 93, last registered in 93. Well, I went up to Oregon into this massive farm in the middle of the hills, in the middle of nowhere, and there it was in a barn. So I brought it home, and I've since done the brakes and the clutch, but generally speaking, I've sprayed all down the choke cables, but I cannot get that choke cable to move, and it seems to be really high up in the dash, where it's situated on the dash on the 69. It's right up.
Yeah, you can't. It's got the round knob on it.
That's it.
Yeah, you can't get your fingers behind that for love nor money.
You got
So
it.
if you have to change it, we'll go through some stuff here. If you have to change it, buy the T handle. The T
Yes.
handle that they brought, same place, same
Yep.
placement, 73, 74. Oh my God, you can put your fingers on it, pull it right out. It's so wonderful.
Okay.
So the choke cable is either frozen because the engine ground strap is faulty and it grounded through the cable and welded the inner cable to the outer cable after replace it.
Yep.
It's frozen because the interconnecting link won't rotate on the carburetors. So whether the cable's connected or not, you should be able to grab that and rotate it. And if
I rotated it at the carbs. I can move. I can
okay,
move it.
then it's
The
to
cable.
use the common breakfast expression, it's toast. So to get that, to change that cable, just a couple of comments. I already talked about taking the heater controls out to get back there. You got to take the heater control cable out. Then you got to have a ring spanner that you cut a slit in, and then cut it off real short so you can reach up in there 3/4 inch and under, maybe it's 5/8 and undo that nut up there, get the nut loose, pull the old cable out, and then when you put the new cable in, go to the hardware store and get a 7/16 20 nut that's that wide instead of the original nut, which is like paper thin. You
Right.
can't get a wrench onto it. I mean, if the dash is off, you can reach it, but oh my God, not in place. So get a nice big nut that you can actually get a wrench on, and then you can get it nice and tight. When you put the new cable through and bring it up through the abutment and all that kind of stuff, and through the trunnion and screw, put a 90-degree turn in it, and then rotate it anti-clockwise 2 or 3 turns, and that'll tend to turn the choke cable locked. I mean, you could leave it neutral, but then sometimes it wants to unlock. You certainly don't want to turn it clockwise, which is going to unlock it, unless it's an MGA, which locks in the T types and A's lock in the opposite direction. But a couple of turns and it'll put a tension on it. It'll be so easy to use, but it's a bugger. It's harder. It's just hard to get out. You've got to use that ring spanner with the a slit in it to get around the cable.
Yep.
So.
Chris,
Yep.
I have a suggestion for your wrench as well. I took a box spanner, an old one that was the right size, and I cut the whole length of it wide enough to slip over the cable so that you can grab it with your whole hand and twist it on the nut. So that's
Oh,
another
you're
option.
talking about a socket. You're talking about
Not a socket. It's called a tube spanner from the MGA or
okay. Oh, one of those.
any
Yeah.
of the
Okay.
early cars.
Yeah.
It's thin metal, but just cut a slot all the way across it, and
Okay.
then you slip it over the cable and use it your whole hand.
Okay.
Once you unlock it, can you get your fingers up there to unwind it? Or if you take the tension off the bolt at the back, can you get your fingers up there to just
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've got to get the cable out. It's it's toast. Thank you.
Yeah, it sure seems like that. Yes. Yep. So if it was a handbrake cable, because those are such a terror to change, far more difficult than changing a choke cable, I take a hammer and a dolly and bang, 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 all along the length of the cable. But you could do that with yours.
Yep.
Just see, withdraw it from the engine compartment. Just see, but you want a T handle on there anyway. So
Yeah.
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 The more common problem with these barn find cars is the bonnet release cable often gets rusty and you can't.
Oh yeah.
pull it.
Yeah. I was on one of your meetings where somebody came up with this idea of getting a light on the end of an LED light on the end of a handheld unit from Tima that you could stick up under there. I stuck it up under we couldn't get the bonnet up. So I stuck it up under there and found where the actual latch was, and I was able to stick a large screwdriver in there and pop the latch, and that was the only way I could get it open.
Excellent. And that cable,
I'll let you know when it gets running. That's going to be the next trick.
that cable will respond nicely to a hammer and a dolly.
Yes.
Bang, 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 and then spray it down and exercise it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, got a note from David Capello, but we've already talked to him. Tom Snook, 56 MGA, interested in everything John talks about. Well, that's very kind. Thank you. So, this is where Marty's asked you to weigh in with what you got going. So, here's Jim, who's you haven't got a general license. You got some other license, WD8JEL. A retired Westinghouse engineer admonished me for using the term light. He said the correct term is lamp.
Okay. I'm going to continue to call LEDs light bulbs, and I don't give a damn.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, well, in all the Lucas stuff, it's always called a lamp. So, Robert LaRocca, we are having problem with a screw type E10 getting, we've already talked about this. Yep, we already talked about that. All right, so from iPhone to everybody, that's such a nice video that's showing up, Judd, right now, because you're the last one that spoke. That's such a nice iPhone to everybody. Is there a decent DIY manual choke conversion for the Stromberg carb? Moss wants $150. Well, are you still on asking about that manual choke? It's not just the choke cable, of course. It's what it attaches to, and the disc and the spring that's on the backside that you got to pull against to get this thing operational. I would much rather tell you how to make the original choke work than to put on a hand choke. But that we could talk about. We could talk about. I don't even know what we're going to talk about next Zoom. Maybe we could talk about Stromberg chokes. But the bottom line is no. I don't know another way out of that hand choke. Tom Healy, hi. I'd like to know where the connection is made for the Moss headlight relays. Do you have to cut into the harness near the headlights? No. Tom, are you still on? Tom is silent or he's not
No,
on.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. All right. No. No, don't ever cut into the harness. You've got to run a new power wire up to the relays.
Right.
From where? For the best place is right from the stud on the bottom of the solenoid on the starter motor. But
Mhm.
you want to run two wires, one for high beam, one for low beam, and put a fuse in both. You don't want to just fuse high and low, because if you pop the fuse, why would you pop the fuse? But if you did pop the fuse, you wouldn't have any lights, and that might be real creepy. Run two wires up, fuse them both, and uh, that's your power. Then you've got a blue with red and a blue with white that come out of the loom, and those will then trigger the relays. You put those across the windings on the relay, one relay for high, one relay for low, and ground on the opposite side. And then on the switched connections, you're going to run your new power to one of the switched connections. And then, I don't know those numbers off the top of my head. I'm thinking of a single pole, single throw, normally off relay, just a SPSD. Um, um, just a real easy relay. And then the other side of the switched connection goes then to the blue with white that runs the bulbs. Or the blue with red that goes with the bulbs. But no, if you got Tom, if you got any question about that, I've got some. Um, I can sketch it. You can call me, text me, and I'll just draw it on a piece of paper and take a picture of it so that it makes sense. I can talk about it because I know how to do it almost with my eyes closed, but
Okay.
when you're doing it starting off, and usually when you buy those kits, they usually come with instructions. But anyway, no, don't ever cut into the harness. No, you can
Okay. Yeah.
use the
The
ends.
instructions are not uh, clear
Yeah.
on the one point which you
Okay.
said, which is come out of the loom, because I know I have to um, sort of activate the relay with the blue with red and the blue with white,
Correct.
right?
So
So
those
I don't
come
have
out
to
of the
go into
loom
the
from
loom to
the
get those.
yeah, and then right here, going back into the loom, right back into the same loom is a blue with red and a blue with white, which run over to run the left-hand headlamp.
Mhm.
And then the right-hand headlamp comes in just with individual connections. So you'd use a four-way Lucas connector between all the pieces. If you want to take a picture of your wiring diagram and just text it to me, just snap a picture,
Okay.
and I'll sketch it back to you, something like that, so you can
Yeah.
understand better how to do it.
Okay. That'd be
Okay.
great. Thank you.
All right. There's one from Marty. Shipwreck. We have already done. Oh, can you explain how the seatbelt storage clip works that's mounted just behind the door on the MGB Roadster?
Yeah, it's
I don't have shoulder belts yet, just the lap belt. Well, those were for the original Kangol belts, and they had a blade, because you had the cross the shoulder, you got a blade, and so when you get out of the car, you take that and just rest it in
uh
that pocket, so it doesn't dangle down and get caught. Now there's a Robert Clark out of Holland, Michigan, Clark and Clark. He's got that thing that comes off to the what
uh
year's your car?
71, and yeah, I've
Yeah,
got the headrests.
yeah. So you can buy that thing from him, goes around the headrest,
Yeah,
goes over and
holds
holds
it.
it in about the right spot. It's
Uh,
not perfect for everybody, but it's real close. And it just dangles there. It doesn't get caught in the door. You don't close the door on it and everything.
and
But
there's that L-shaped thing with a cup with a looks
Mhm.
like bent. Okay, yeah, I couldn't figure it out because I don't have shoulder belts.
Yeah,
Trying
you
to
want shoulder belts. all MG owners want shoulder belts. Oh my gosh, lat belts are good. I mean, lat belts are better than no belts.
Right.
But oh my gosh, you've got to keep your head and torso from going into the dash.
Or the steering column.
One exception. Mike McDonald from Rockford, Michigan, was traveling with Dave Quinn. They were coming back from an MGA meet. I don't know if it was a GT 35 or something. I don't know what it was, but they're happily driving along. F-150, F-350 drives right out in front of them. They T-bone the F-350, right? So there's no damage on the F-350, and the front of the MGA is just all collapsed. And both of them had lap belts. Both of them went into Dave was driving. He went into the steering wheel. Mike McDonald went into the dash, and you know they had to go to the hospital, and it was a considerable wreck, and they X-rayed Mike McDonald or gave him an MRI or something just to see if there's any damage, and they said, "Well, we got good news and bad news." They said there's no damage from the accident, but we've discovered a tumor behind your nose, and had it not been for this accident, by the time that tumor was evident, it might have been too late to save. I don't know, your face, your nose, your life. I don't know. Anyway, so there's always something on the other side of that bell curve. But anyway, I'm all adamant. You've got to cross the shoulder belt, and I don't like recoil belts. I like fixed belts. Like you pull that thing in and cinch it down so that you are one with the seat. The seat is one with the car. You know, your body, your torso, your butt, your chest is going to move with the car, and then you've got your forelimbs and your head, which are free to move around a little bit. Did I tell you that I'm adamant about fixed seat belts?
I was just beginning to get the inkling that you were.
Now, you're 6'2" and your wife is 5'4" and she drives the car too. Can't do it.
No,
It's a logistical nightmare trying to get it all switched over. But if you're the only
I
person,
drive it, and she can't reach the pedals.
okay.
So she's a happy passenger.
All right. Okay, no.
Thanks.
And to prove what you were saying about the shoulder belts,
yeah,
back in '75, we hit a guardrail. It was lower than the grass. We hit a guardrail about 55 miles an hour and had no damage to us. Well, I had a little scrape mark from the seatbelt, but we survived. The interior of the car was fine. The car was totaled, but if it wasn't for those belts, we'd have been gone too.
Yeah, it's just, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
John, do you have any recommendation in an MGA for the rear support for that strap for the shoulder strap?
Yes. The rear bolt that goes through the body that holds on the rear fender, the rear one that's accessible inside the cockpit. You know, the bolt's only supposed to be that long, 5/16, 24. So instead, put a bolt in that's that long, and you got a stud then that sticks out from the inside, and that's holding the rear fender onto the body. It's gone through a cage nut, and then you put some washers on there and double nut it. Now you get a place to put a hook, because you've got to hook it and unhook it, depending on whether the seat belt is, or whether the top is up or down, right? You got to change the position of the belt. So it has to have a hook on the end of it. Who makes the seat belts? There's some place you can go. They've got just a whole range.
Is it Simpson?
There's a few places. I think I got mine from Seatbelt Planet, maybe.
Seatbelt Planet.
I'd say somebody.
Yeah, but they have everything. And I'm glad you said that about the fixed seatbelts, because I must be the only guy beside you that uses those. I got rid of the retractables. They didn't work right. They didn't come under the half tonneau cover. So this is dangerous. And
yep. So anyway, Dean, you got to have a hook on there, but behind there, or you got to unhook it somewhere, somehow. But that's where mine is hooked, and maybe it's just a little wide. Every now and then I have to cinch the belt down a little bit. I wish it was going straighter back, but it goes off on the oblique. But that's where mine's attached.
All right, thanks, John.
John,
Yes.
can on this topic, I just like to ask about the shoulder strap. On my MGB, the shoulder strap anchors to the body via two smaller diameter bolts. This is part of the design of the anchorage of the vehicle.
Yes. This is
And
67 or something?
yeah, 65.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a non-standard, non-acceptable anchorage system as such. And I wanted to find out, is it possible to get a belt with a bracket that has two smaller diameter holes rather than the one single hole, or does one have to make up an adapter plate of some sort?
Don't know. Probably you're going to have to fashion something.
Yeah, yeah.
So all you can do is open up all these seatbelt places. Seatbelts are us, Mr. Seatbelt. What was this Seatbelt Planet?
Seatbelt Planet actually has some really nice options here by year and type. So that
Okay.
looks like a good one. I put the link in there.
All right, thanks, Marty. So anyway, just all you can do is pour through the catalogs and just see if you can find something that looks like it'll work. You can always have the seatbelt shortened or lengthened by someone who does automotive upholstery, somebody with a great big ass sewing machine. I had Kangol belts, magnetic seat belts, and that they were looking pretty awful. And I took it all apart. I took all of it apart, and I took all the pieces to my upholstery guy, and he put on all new straps, all brand new straps. So yeah, those that that anchorage is the same on all the Bs. And I don't think I'm hard pressed to say that I've ever seen anything prior to 68 with that anchorage on there. The MGA's had a horrible system. You'd tear your pants apart getting it into the car if you do it originally. So anyway,
Okay.
look through
Well,
the
thanks for that.
yeah, yep.
Hey, John, just real quick on this on the same topic. What do you think about 4-point
Oh,
belts?
three
Too much?
three why not 5 points so you don't submarine? I whatever, but 3 point absolutely.
Perfect. Thanks.
So Dean says I've got a 52 TD, no turn signals in mine, that were added in a later version. Does anyone have a recommendation for an LED brake light bar turn signal combination that I could add to the rear of the car? So this is a Chimsel, right? CHMSL center mount high stoplight, Chimsel. So I've seen them. I've seen those on the back of cars before, and you wouldn't if you electronic flasher, as long as you got some sort of switch. Of course, you're all hand wiring this, but you don't have to have front turn signals. You don't have to have the ones up front. You could just use a long bar on the back, but I don't know. You just have to look up turn signal bars or something like that. I don't know which one would work, and then you got to make your own proprietary bracket and so forth to mount it up there. But you can sure make a case on a TD for getting some better illumination in the back end, depending where and when you're driving it. So, and in the state of Michigan, hand signals are now, I don't think they're illegal, but they're not recognized. You can't, you know that you can't put your hand up, like for turning right. This doesn't make sense to the guys from Australia, but you stick your arm out, right? If you're turning left, that makes sense. You put your hand down if you're stopping, and you put it up if you're turning right. But I don't not, that's all, that's all real old fashioned now. Nobody uses that.
Well, remind me not to drive there because I have regular turn signals and I always give a hand signal as well.
Hey,
But we're in redneck boondoggle country.
well, and you always drive with your lights on. I mean, it's just, yeah, you do everything you can.
I am the non-stealth car.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Chris, to everybody, is it worth changing the two fuse setup on a 69 MGB GT to the later fuse box? No, no, it's not, because the later fuse box from top to bottom is parking lights, ignition, and always hot horn. So you've already got ignition and always hot. Those are the whites and the white green fuse
Yep.
and the purple brown fuse. And on a 69, you've got two individual fuses mounted on the inner fender to separate the sides of the parking light. So if you lose one parking light for a dead short or something, you don't lose both sides. So everything's still in place. What year? That's the one you got from Oregon, right?
Yep. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
the 69 GT.
Yeah. Yep, you got they're already they're inline fuses and they're trapped under some little they're already there, so there's no advantage.
Okay. No, it's just that I don't have any lights. I have high beam. I don't have, and I've got the brake lights to work, but I have no indicator lights. I have no parkers, and I thought change the fuse box because it seems to every time I put a light on the fuse box, sometimes it lights up and sometimes it doesn't.
So, it's when you're doing electrical, you start at the battery, everything's clean, the ground strap's clean. You go to the starter solenoid, you undo that nut underneath there, pull all the wires off, tighten the nut underneath, put them all back on, tighten it all, take the fuse box off the car, sandblast it if you can, if you got that, or put it into a bowl with some acid, something or other, etch it a little bit, get that cleaned up, just step by step.
Okay. All right.
All right. Let's see, Shipwreck, could you please email the instructions for adjusting the gearbox for when the shifter moves back and forth in third gear?
Yeah, John, we were on the phone.
And it's
They've
moving
kind of,
like this.
yeah, back and forth a little bit.
You got to take the gearbox out of the car.
Oh, yeah, it's coming out.
All right. And you
Oh,
got
yeah.
to, okay. All right.
Yeah,
So-
you had some instructions you're going to email. I couldn't find your
Oh,
email
well,
address.
maybe I probably told you I was going to and then didn't, or anyway, yeah. Just a second, I gotta write this.
I'll make a note of that.
All right, hey, thanks. Thanks, Marty.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's a spacer in there with ears on it, and if you get it rotated, the ears don't fit together and it stands proud, so you end up with that much room for the third speed gear when there's only supposed to be that much room, and the thing floats back and forth.
Yeah.
It's so maddening because because you got to take it all back apart again. So.
It's got other issues as well.
Okay, all right. Okay,
One of many.
Call me tomorrow and just talk to me about it because I'll offer you as much as I can.
Yeah, no, we talked to him, and I'll call you in a couple of
okay.
weeks when everything
All right.
when I get more close to pulling the engine back out. Thanks.
All right. Dave Smittle says joined late, but I get my LED bulbs from Jeff Zorn. He's got good service. Yep. JaguarClock.com rebuilds Smith's clocks with electronic movements. JaguarClock.com. Probably at Jaguar prices, but that's and here's
they're less than $100, John.
Oh my. Okay.
You have to send in your old clock.
Okay, and he puts modern quartz guts into it.
Quartz movement in
Hey,
there.
nice. And D-Clan, here he is in Dusseldorf in the section here. That's real nice. Thank you. Pulling an MGA engine with or without the transmission. So this is Dean. So if you pull the MGA gearbox and engine together, you've got to pull the front pulley off the engine. There's no other way around it. You can pull the engine just by itself. So it just depends if you want to take the front pulley off.
Is there an advantage of doing either or? Because I spoke to you one time before. I had the motor was seized. I've sprayed it and it's just locked up.
I've always been able to thaw a frozen engine. So before you take it out, or if you started,
let me explain something. I had when I was overseas, the car was in a garage and I had a garage. It was lightning struck the tree, had a garage fire, and the smoke just,
okay.
Oh man, to get the distributor out, man, it was a battle. Just, it took me, just soaking it and everything. The carburetors, anything aluminum.
Okay.
I don't, okay. So you're saying with the motor.
So with the problem is that you can't get it out. You can't get enough angle on it, and the front pulley is in the way. So if the engine's frozen, this is pretty handy. You just put a 1 5/16 wrench on.
I've got that. From trying to unfreeze it. It's easy to get that wasn't locked up. The
Okay.
drive dog.
Right.
But
Yeah.
when you were saying about the motor, you said you can unlock. You never had an issue with unlocking a motor.
I have always been able to free a frozen engine, always, and I had a lot of them. And it's just easier, cheaper. Now it may be.
No, I'm
that-
listening. I'm listening.
Okay, it may be that there's damage because the cast iron rings rust to the cylinder bore. That's
Yes.
what happens. And sometimes there's a lot of damage there and it ends up smoking a lot. But so what? You buy a lot of oil anyway. So starter motors out, distributors out, generators out.
Yep.
Heater control valve is out, and you use a pry bar that is like that long, right? I got one that I call it a screwdriver. It looks like a screwdriver, but it's got a screwdriver handle, but it's a pry bar on the end. Long, a really long pry bar. And you put it between the flywheel tooth and the backing plate and try to turn it clockwise. Try to turn it the other way. It either moves or it doesn't. If it doesn't, you spray more stuff down in the cylinders. You've already put in what PB
Pulled the
blaster.
head off of it. I pulled the head off of it.
The head's off it all.
Yeah, because I was trying to, I figured I'd take a block of wood. There's one cylinder. There were 3 cylinders. I mean, it took a long time to drain. There's one cylinder that's not draining. And I took a block of wood and trying to smack that.
Just use the torque. The starter motor has got, Fred, do you know, 15 pounds of lock torque? It isn't very much, but it's on the flywheel, it ends up, it ends up being a lot of torque, but nothing compared to a pry bar. What do you know, Fred? What's the lock torque on a M35G starter? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, use a great big ass long pry bar and just heave at it. You go, well, what if I break a tooth on the flywheel? Well, then you gotta take the engine out. But you're gonna have to take the engine out anyway. But I've never broken a tooth. And try it one way, try it the other way. Try it one way, try it the other way. Heat it up. Put a propane. Don't walk away from the car. Put a propane torch on the underside of the car and just start heating up the oil. Get the temperature to come up. Just open up your propane torch and let it heat up the sump. I've always been able to get them done. So, and there are better penetrants than others. There's an XL 110. Oh my God, I bought a little tiny can. It was like $25 because the locksmith told me one time, he says, this stuff always works. We just tried
Roll?
it.
Roll?
Croyle, you mean?
Yes.
There's Croyle? No, it's something else. I mean, all this penetrant has to be about the same stuff, right? There's Croyle, there's Breakaway, there's PB Blaster. Some people just use ATF or Marvel Mystery Oil. If the cylinder head is on, you can loosen up the valves, put a fitting in the cylinder head, and hook your airline to it, and pressurize the cylinder so it pushes the oil down past the rings. Wish you didn't have the head off already.
I can put that back on. I mean, it'll blow, probably, yeah, the head gasket. I'll probably ruin the head gasket. Yep.
Yeah, it probably isn't worth wasting a head gasket on, but using that, trying to move it one way, trying to move it the other. All of a sudden it moves. And then it's like, hey, now we're home free. So what I've done in the past is then put a strap on the front of the engine, had somebody tow me at 20 miles an hour in second gear around the block. The pistons are all going up and down. Everything gets all lubed up. You get oil pressure. So anyway.
Well, you said one time you can pressurize your system by just, oil pressure, run it through your chambers and stuff by, a method that you talked about one time. You just, how did you manage to do that?
You got to spin the engine. You got to be able to spin
first.
the engine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get that done first, and then we'll go from there.
So anyway, try that pry bar. You just got to have everything out of the way, and and you're just sort of hanging on the pry bar one way and hanging on the other. And you just keep trying it and keep. How long have you had it soaking?
Oh,
a year?
No. Probably about when was the last? Probably 2 months.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, it isn't going to get any more soaked than it is now. Try that pry bar.
And one cylinder, it's just not draining.
Yeah.
I mean, I even had kerosene in it, and it just.
Yep. Understand.
Got a question, John.
Yes, sir.
You
Hey,
ever
Barney.
You ever worry about breaking the crankshaft when you're prying on that flywheel with a big pry bar?
Well, you're not on the crankshaft on that. Oh, I can.
No, I've never worried about that. I mean, that crankshaft's pretty good size. I can't.
I worked on one of those that was stuck like that, and we pried on it with a big pry bar, and we moved the gear tooth half inch, twisting the crankshaft, and I just said I quit.
Okay, all right. I unbelievable. Okay, all right.
I'm a little confused. But on an MGA, you got zero access to any of this stuff from the top. Where are you standing when you're using that great big ass pry bar? And where's the car?
You're standing on the offside.
The car's on the ground?
Yeah, car's on the ground. You got the bonnet fully open. You got the generator out of the way, the heater control valve, the distributor, and the starter motor. And you just go down, just down through the hole where the starter motor was, and you're levering against the flywheel teeth against the brake backing plate.
Wow. Okay.
So another option for getting the engine out, if you take it out and don't want to damage your pulley, you can drop the rack and pinion forward. Just take the 4 bolts out. You might have to take the steering column loose. Just drop it forward, and it gives you a lot of clearance.
Gotcha. Okay.
Can you use a socket with a pry bar?
Say again?
Can you use a socket with a pry bar? Let's a
No,
2-inch.
not on the front nut. You'll snap that nut. So we're not turning the crank from the front nut. We're wedging it between the teeth and the flywheel, the teeth in the flywheel and the brake backing plate, and we're levering it.
What do you mean by the brake backing plate, John? I
don't mean the engine, the rear engine bearing.
Okay, black.
plate.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Okay, yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. It's getting late. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Okay, I'll give that a try. Let's see if I'm successful next meeting.
Okay, and if you do end up having to take the engine apart, get a different front cover and get a harmonic balancer. So your timing marks are up at 11 o'clock.
Yep. Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, about the best penetrant I've ever
Mm.
found to use was Deep Creep by Seafoam. Get it at your favorite store there, Napa.
Okay, Deep Creep.
It works well.
So, yeah, we've done, yeah, I've heated them up. We've done all kinds of stuff, but I've never failed in getting one loose. Now, if it's been stored outside with the head off and it's all
No, no, no.
rusty, I mean, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about one with a head on it. So, okay, let's see. Who's up next? Bruce Esoterica. About 8 years ago, I was given an ancient CB headlights with very concave lenses, put them in my 80 MGB for the novelty factor. Recently, I installed stone guards on the headlights, but the profile of the weird headlights wouldn't allow fitment of the stone guards. Therefore, I retired the old lights and put my sealed beams back on. Okay, all right, that's cool. I've got those on my headlights too. It's like people say, "Oh, is that to protect the headlight?" I can't tell you the last time I ever saw a headlight with a hole in it from a stone. It's just like it's lipstick, it just makes the car look cool. So, no, just a minute. I'm trying to flip through the stuff here. Just a moment here. Mark Goldfarb. For LED bulbs, try Joe Parlanti at Velo Velas Solutions. He can sell you any bulb you need or a complete kit with all the necessary bulbs for your model. Great price. It's here. So anyway, that's another place. Jim Riley couldn't stay up any longer. He says good night. And JCat9. So how do you free a clutch from a flywheel engine in the car, 60 mini MG 1100 engine? Sorry, no mic, no camera to respond. So JCat9, what I'm going to tell you to do to free up a clutch that's stuck. In other words, you put your foot down. It feels like the clutch is working. It is working. It feels like it's you got pressure. You can see the arm moving on the cover on that 1100. You know it's working, but you cannot get it in first or reverse. I mean, it's not disengaging. You can't begin to put it in gear. So you point the car down the driveway and you start it up in neutral and just let it idle until it gets nice and warm. So it'll start with a key just like that, start instantly, put the car in first gear, maybe in second, and start it in gear and start driving. You're going to drive around the block, around your neighborhood. Because when you have to stop sign, stop light, you have to turn the car off and then you got to put it in gear and start back up again. But you can do that. It'll work like that. And then what I do is hit the throttle and the clutch at the same time. And the car is going, as you're jerking it, all of a sudden it pops free. I've never failed to free a frozen clutch using that technique. So,
But there's always an exception.
Thank you, Barney. Yes,
I ran into one of those a few years ago. We ended up having to pull the engine out of an MGB to get a hammer and chisel to knock the clutch plate loose from the flywheel.
Well, that's what the fellow from the New Zealand or Australian accent was on before. With it, I said, that, yeah, because he already had the engine out of the car. So, yeah. Yeah, there's always that chance. But I had one at Brit Bits, Sam Smith, and who's Sam's partner up there, Fred? I had it the other day. I thought of his name. Anyway, they had a magnet stuck clutch, and I went to visit. I did a tech seminar in 2010, and they said, "Oh no, that's stuck. We can't get that on. We've tried. We can't get it unstuck." Well, Mr. Big here says, "Well, I can get it unstuck." Well, after about 10 minutes out driving road and it's not coming unstuck, I'm starting to think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go back sheepishly and eat my words. And then at the last minute, it popped loose. Now, all that wreaking havoc with those springs on the clutch disc, I thought, that clutch disc was probably pretty beat up, but it came loose and it worked. So, Rob Kuhn still chasing clutch bleeding. Okay, change the
Yeah.
master cylinder twice. New slave. Change the copper O-rings, banjo fittings. And this is using .5. Okay, that's our first problem here. The brake side is fine. You only think it's fine on a 58 MGA. So I don't have my diagram here, but I do have a pencil, and I'm going to sketch this out just so you can see it. Just a second here while I draw this. So just a moment here. I don't know if you can see this. Here's the reservoir on top. There's the clutch piston, and you can see the primary cup. And here's the bore. So when you're pressing on this, the piston is pushing the fluid out the back end. Well, there's a little bleed hole. You see that little bleed hole there? Okay, so that little bleed hole right behind the primary. So when you put silicone fluid in there, the primary seal swells and covers that bleed hole. So you got to have that piston come farther forward. Whoops, that way, farther forward than it naturally would. So the cheap trick is just unscrew the screws on the front of the master cylinder, just maybe a turn or two. You got to put something behind there so the screw can't leave the screws loose. But there's a paper gasket in there, but it's just for spacing. So you've got to let that front cover come farther forward so the piston will come farther forward, just incrementally, and maybe that will get you there.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
And what I've done in the past, the gasket that goes between the master cylinder and the front cover but again, it doesn't seal anything. It's just a paper gasket. So get some cardboard that's like this size cardboard, right? That's just that kind of thickness, cigarette carton, and you can make that same gasket. You got to have the holes large enough so the piston will go through it. You can put a slit in the bottom. You don't even have to take the master cylinder out. You just take the front cover loose and slip this thing down, put a slit in the bottom, and just push it over the push rods, and then put the screws back in. Put two of them in, and it doesn't matter how far that piston comes forward. Not twice this, comes forward an inch. There's a lot of different stuff in play, but just that little tiny bit. And boy, that will make all the difference in the world.
I'll do it. Thank you.
Has anyone taken the seat belts apart to clean them so they retract? No, there is like a mainspring. I've tried in the past, years and years and years ago. I tried, and when my skill level wasn't as good as it is or has been, I don't know what my skill level is now. I don't work all the time. Rob Kuhn, that's a pretty tough looking MGA in your picture there. Anyway, those seat belts are all, oh my gosh, that mainspring. And I remember wrapping the mainspring and getting it into place and trying to hold this whole thing together, and then sprawling it all flies apart. If you're Mr. Original and you've got to have original seat belts in there, then good luck. Maybe you got to buy some good used ones from Sports Car Craftsman in Denver. But otherwise, just buy fixed seat belts.
John, if you want to go down that road, I'd suggest getting an old lawnmower with the pull cord retractor. Start there on winding springs, and then lose interest and then move on.
You've been there too, huh? So, okay. All right. Marty's got some stuff. Sorry, delayed, just joined. JD to everybody. Apologies if this has been covered, but what are the thoughts of installing inline fuses for lights? Um, the headlights, the parking lights are fused 1968 onwards. They should be fused. Parking lights should be fused all the way back, 19 TC. You got a headlamp switch. MGAs have got a headlamp switch. Both of those, there's like 5 red wires that have got to go under some little tiny little grub screw. It's like you can't even hook the thing up the way it's supposed to. Get an inline fuse with long pigtails on it. Put one end of the pigtail into the switch. Get the other end of the pigtail, strip it, put all the other red wires together, crimp them down. Now you've got a fuse on your parking light circuit. The only downside is if you lose, if the fuse pops, you don't have any lights, but you're also going to lose your dash lights because that's on the same circuit. Always fuse the parking lights up through 68. Beyond there, they're fused. But the headlights are never fused, and they don't need to be fused. I've never seen them. I can't think of an instance where I saw the headlamp wires melt or catch on fire or something like that from a dead short. It just doesn't happen. So if you do fuse the headlights, don't fuse the wire going into the switch, which cuts out all your fuses if you lose the fuse for whatever reason, but separate it into the blue with red, which is the dip, and the blue with white. Fuse those circuits. So, but I wouldn't fuse them.
John, can I interrupt on
Pat.
headlight fusing? Instead of a fuse, use a cycling circuit breaker.
Okay. So that means it just starts popping?
Yes.
Pops and then reconnects?
It'll function like a blinker if you have a short in your headlights.
Okay.
That was a federal requirement. I don't know the year, but like you said, it never happens.
Pat's got a lot more experience working for the dealer than I did. I only worked there 2 months. Pat worked there 20 years. I don't know how long you worked there, but anyway, yeah, that's I've just never seen a headlight circuit fail. So, or I mean, short out and burn up. Almost everything else, not that circuit. So, a cycling circuit breaker. So
John.
Yeah, Barney.
The modern crop of dippers, MGA dipper switches from Moss are very precarious. They can switch or not switch, and they can short to ground.
Okay.
Thank you. On the MGB or the MGA?
Foot switch on an MGA.
The MGA dipper switch, you work with your foot.
Is that the same switch on the TD?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and they're pretty much guaranteed to be bad from Moss. If they last more than a week, you're doing good. If they short to ground when you're driving in the dark, you either burn up your wiring harness or you run off the road.
Gentlemen, don't drive at night.
Oh, anyway, that's
the sort of electrical failure that can kill people.
Yeah, every now and then something comes through the pipeline that isn't right, and I know they work trying to make it get it right, but yeah. Okay, thanks, Barney. Thanks. That's recent news. That's not from a couple years ago, or
that's everything for the last 10 years at least.
With those dipper switches, huh? Okay.
That's it. You cannot buy a good one from Moss for at least 10 years now.
Okay. I know I've taken them apart before and fixed them, which is difficult to do because they've got a rivet on the top of them, but I've done it. So
why would that be any different from any floor mounted dipper switch? I mean, it's just
It's
Two
just
position switch.
just a floor, yeah. Well, it just, an MG, a Lucas one has got screws in a certain location and
Ah,
just,
okay. Gotta have Whitworth in there somewhere.
probably, probably on the screws or something. So anyway, so this is it. This we are down to the end, and it's at 9:30.
John, you skipped one, and I'm curious about it.
Which one?
A guy named John Lind. I don't know if he's still on. I think had a question about the head that I had showing up there. He says, showing the bottom of the threaded ports for the air pump system. And I mean, either I'm confused, he's confused, or we're all confused. I don't know.
So
He's still on?
the threaded port would be a 68 through 80 midget or MGB or MGC where they've got the injectors, and I did not I did.
I guess he didn't know which kind of motor I had. Never mind then, forget the whole thing.
Okay, all right, but that there is an air injector to blow fresh air into the exhaust system above the exhaust valve as the exhaust gases are making their escape from the engine to add fresh
He's
air.
looking at the threaded ports on mine where you put spark plugs.
Well, maybe.
Okay, that makes sense. Never mind.
Yeah,
Good,
and
good night.
that's a
Great
real
meeting, John.
early head.
Thanks.
That's a real early banana head too. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, everybody who's been on, thank you very, very kindly for your participation. And Doug, are you still on?
Yes, John, I am. Yes.
Did you bring a hat?
Yes, I did, John. Yes.
I'm having to pull out some hats that I have worn before. So this is an original Boonie hat, brand new, still with the tag on the inside of it. A Boonie hat from Vietnam. So not mine, but someone I knew. So yep.
Okay, John. You said hats as in plural or
No, just hat.
Good. Okay. I wouldn't want you to shoot your wad tonight and the whole thing. So anyway, well, mine is, yesterday was the conclusion of the Masters, and back in the 30 years or so ago, my dad went down there for a practice round with some friends. There was a charter flight down to Augusta National, and he brought this hat back for me. So that's the hat for tonight.
Very cool. I have nothing even close to that. I ran into a jam. I'm down to the end of my hats. Yeah, and I every now and then I lose one. I leave it someplace or something, and I've got my work hat, which is getting pretty beat up, and I've got some that are close, but they're not quite right. And I found this place in England that had them, Failsworth, and they've got lots of black ones and blue ones, but I like the brown one. They don't make them. They're out of stock. So the place that I bought
Vinny,
them.
are you getting ready to go to bed?
And
are?
That's why I've got the mute all button. So I contacted this place and they said, well, we don't have any more in fawn. That's the color that they give. There's no more available in fawn. And I said, well, look, what if I ordered 6 of them at once or 8 of them at once? Is there a chance? The guy writes me back and he says, no, we got to have an order for a couple thousand. So I said, well, that's it. So I hunted all around. I found another company in England which had 2 more of these hats. So I think I've exhausted the supply of fawn colored Failsworth hats. So that ought to hold me for a while. Anyway, off the subject. I want to thank everybody for being here. Be sure to go on the PayPal, press the PayPal button. Thank Marty, thank me for organizing this. Thank you everybody who's had comments about the bulbs and Marty's posted this in the chat section, and it'll be up on our website. it hasn't got all the sizes and all, I think it's only got one Osram number and it's got some Napa numbers, but and you can always get the stuff from Moss. But it's fun talking about it. I wanted to talk about it some other time, maybe on the 200th, we'll talk about all the different threads in the car. So Barney and I can have a challenge.
When's the next Zoom?
Well, that's a question, isn't it? It probably ought to be about as early as next week. It's either going to be the 28th or the 21st. So we may I don't know. I don't know yet, but I'll let everybody know. The day before. Although I know I should send out a note a little bit before that. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. I don't know, and I don't know what we're going to talk about. Marty's taking a poll tonight. And maybe Stromberg chokes. That'd be an interesting one. And just go through that. Although I've got a lot of YouTube videos up about it, but there's no substitute to talking about it and back and forth and so forth. So anyway,
you didn't ask us about attendance.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ask. How many people did you have, Marty?
Doug and I have been direct messaging about this. We actually matched tonight, which is very rare, actually.
Okay.
At 7:57, I counted 145 people, and Doug also counted 145. But we had a lot of people come in for the second half. Probably a dozen people coming in, a good bit through. So 162 unique participants.
Oh, 162 unique.
Yep.
Yes, John, Marty and I did match. So there is no need for an IRS audit since it's tax day.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, good luck with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Marty.
Good night, John. Suits will be there in the morning to check on Marty.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, good night to everyone. Thank you very
Good night,
much.
John. Thank
Night.
you.
Been
Thanks so much.
real pleasure.
Good night,
John.
Get my view here, get gallery view. Who's
John, thank you.
Doug, thanks for being here. And David Vasily, you had a question up there. Tom Snook, thanks. How come you're on there twice, Tom?
I was having a problem with the Wi-Fi.
Oh, all right.
In my house.
All right, because I right next to each other there's you, and then there's just a blank screen. Barney, thanks for being on tonight. Very kind. Pete Price, thank you for being here. Pat Garrity, Pat, I didn't even realize Pat was here until the very, very end. So thank you.
I'm recovering tonight. Just put a new gearbox in the car a couple days ago.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Bob and Gloria, thank you. You're always on. You're always got stuff to add, and between you and Barney, there's million miles.
Well, thanks, John, and have a happy Easter.
Hey, you got everyone else too. So thank you very much, and I'll let everybody know. Marty and I'll argue. We'll arm wrestle over the subject for next time. So anyway,
wrestle.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Good night, John.
Thank you, Bill.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, John.